This week on the Timelapse Show, we're time-lapsing over 5,000 cross-country miles of driving fun to see what it looks like. So how can you do the same for some of your vacation driving memories? Here are my tips coming up next. Welcome, time-lapsers, to this week's episode of the Timelapse Show. This is the show for the week beginning July 8th, 2018. We do have a little bit of news to cover this week, so let's get right to it. Just a quick note here before I get into this. I bring this up as news, not as a product endorsement or as someone who's actually used the product. I saw the news release letting me know that this Kickstarter campaign was about to end, and so I thought I'd let everybody know about it. But what this is it's a product called the Capsule 360. It's a series of these small little modules that spin in different directions and turn in different directions that you can put together to achieve lots of different movement with your camera. Now, when you add it in conjunction with a slider, you can get all sorts of cool movement according to the Kickstarter campaign. Individual components start at $199. If you want the full package, you're talking somewhere around $979. So it is a bit of an investment. It will be out later this year. But the Kickstarter campaign ends July 12th. So if you want to be part of that initial campaign, now's the time to go and buy it. But don't worry, if you somehow miss the July 12th cutoff, you can still get the product via their pre-order program. The Kickstarter campaign did meet their goals, so they will be funded. They were asking somewhere, I think, around $75,000. They got over $500,000, so they are good to go. But if you're interested, check the show notes, and I'll put a link somewhere right here as well so that you can look at that for yourself. So there's really just that one news story this week to report. So with that, let's get into our main feature about documenting some miles. So this last week, an interesting and kind of unique opportunity popped up onto my schedule where I agreed to do a favor for my sister-in-law by driving, like I said, over 5,000 miles to help her out with a delivery that needed to happen. So I ended up driving from Oregon down to Los Angeles to Fort Worth to San Antonio, back to Los Angeles, back to Oregon. Quite the trek. So I was on the road constantly. Now, when I agreed to do this little adventure, I'm thinking to myself, I'm producing this new show called the Timelapse Show. This will be great because along the way, I've got to stop at some point in time. And anytime I stop, I can simply set up a camera and document and do some time-lapsing of all sorts of cool new scenery that I don't get to see. That was the idea. Now, in reality, I learned really quickly on the first day that when you're driving, between 13 and 18 hours a day, the last thing that you want to do is stop, scout out locations, set up gear, wait for a shot to time-lapse for an hour, take it all back down, and then get back in the car, especially when you're driving through the Mojave Desert and it's 110 degrees. So I quickly changed my plan. I still wanted to get something out of the trip. So on the second day, I decided to take my GoPro camera, stick it up in the front window of the dashboard, and just time-lapse the trip, not like taking video, not like a dash cam, but do the same settings that I would do for a scenic time-lapse. We're talking 10-second intervals. And so I put the camera up, I decided to try it, and essentially what I now have is a video document that pretty much every 10 seconds of my journey across the country, a picture was taken and I have that documented. So you end up with this really cool, kind of movement time-lapse shot, very different from what you'd get from doing scenic photography. So today, with everyone getting ready for vacations and doing a lot of cross-country driving as this summer season really kicks into high gear, I thought I would cover what goes into creating these types of shots so that if you want to incorporate them into your vacation memory fun, you'll know exactly how to do that. So here are my tips, and here's what happens. First of all, my first point is have the right gear. There's a couple things you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need an action camera of some sort of kind. I mean, granted, I'm partial to GoPros. I've got quite a few of them. I use them all over the place, as you've probably gathered from watching this podcast in the past. But there are other action cameras on the market that will do the same type of thing if you don't want to go the GoPro route. But you do need the small little camera. You don't want to use your phone because your phone's going to be used for a lot of other things, and a lot of times, anytime you get a text and you're filming, your phone can shut off to get that text, and you don't want that interrupting your shot. So find some sort of an action camera that you're happy with. You don't want to mount a gigantic DSLR in your windshield. That would be kind of crazy. But get these little guys and you'll be good to go. Next thing you need is a suction cup. You need a way to attach it to the dashboard. So I have got a GoPro branded suction cup. This thing is amazing. This thing will stick through anything. Now, the one suggestion that I would have here as far as the suction cup is, it really seems that a suction cup is one of those you get what you pay for types of items. So I have the official branded, the GoPro branded, suction cup. Last year, I was getting ready to go do a whole shoot in Africa, and I wanted to be able to shoot 3 time lapses simultaneously from different places that I was. So I went out and I bought some like generic branded, just something I found on Amazon. They look pretty much the same thing as the GoPro, but they were a heck of a lot cheaper, which I thought at the time was a really good thing to do until we got to the bumpy roads of Africa, and on the first bump, they all fell off the window. So the suction cups, again, spend the money to get a good one because they will be nice, but if you get the cheap ones, they will cause you a lot of headaches. The other thing that you want to get is some sort of an external battery pack. The typical GoPro battery is going to last somewhere between 2 and 3 hours. If you're doing something like what I'm doing, where we're talking about documenting 18 some odd hours a day, you're going to need a little bit of extra power. So I personally use a little USB, external battery pack that I can put somewhere. You could also plug your GoPro into your car, your cigarette lighter through one of those adapters, but just find some way to power it for the long haul. Now, a few tips here as far as using these. Find some way, if you're using an external battery pack, to attach it to your dashboard without ruining your dashboard. I don't know if sticky side tape would be a good idea because you might pull up some of the dashboard with it, but find some way to affix it so that way every single time you take a corner, this thing doesn't go flipping off into the distance, yank your camera sideways and ruin your shot, or risk injuring someone else in the vehicle. So somehow lock this puppy down on your dashboard so that you've got a way to keep track of it. The other thing you got to watch out for, because again, I was driving through deserts, I was driving through heat, and with this sitting up on the dashboard, it got really, really hot occasionally. So again, my GoPro battery will last 2 to 3 hours. So I would keep monitoring this guy and make sure it didn't overheat. And if it did get hot, I would unplug it, just let the camera go off the battery for a few hours, and give this guy a rest. Once it was nice and cooled down, I'd plug it back in and we'd keep on going. So just a few things that you need to know for gear so that you can get up and running. So now what you got to do is attach the GoPro to your suction cup, put that up into the windshield of the vehicle. A few things to watch out for there. Check the display to make sure you're getting the shot that you want, and watch out for glare. Remember, you're shooting through the windshield, and depending on the angle of your windshield, you might have some reflection of stuff happening in the vehicle. So just keep that in mind. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick the right time-lapse mode to get this particular job done. Now, in a future episode, we're going to go in depth through the different settings on a GoPro camera so you know exactly what to use and what all the different time-lapse modes do. But for now, suffice it to, we'll do this just quick explanation. There's the two that you might be curious about. There's going to be time-lapse video, and that's what you want to pick for this type of thing. The other one is time-lapse photo. Now, time-lapse photo is the mode where it takes individual photos and stores those on the camera. But when you're time-lapsing for, like I said, 18 hours a day, you don't want an individual photo for every 10 seconds of that time. That would be an absurd number of photos to go through. So what I go through, like I said, is time-lapse video mode, because what that's doing is it's building a video 1 frame at a time. So at the end of the day, you'll have, a 5 or 6 minute video, as opposed to 10,000 files to sort through. Granted, it's a little bit restraining as far as what you can do with it, but for this type of project, you really want to go with something simple. So I recommend time-lapse video mode within the GoPro. Next thing you've got to remember is to keep your windshield as clean as possible. You're shooting through the window, so any kind of smudge that's going to be in front of you is going to cause you problems. A few lessons learned here from as far as keeping your windshield clean. Try to use the cleanest water that you possibly can. Pretty much every time I stopped for gas, I was cleaning off the windshield and giving it a fresh coat of water. Now, in some of the more rugged regions of Texas and New Mexico, some of those gas stations, the water in the windshield washer bucket was not very clean. It was just kind of brown and gross, but I needed something, and that creates a lot of nasty streaks on the window, as you'll probably see from the file that I'm putting up right now. So try to, I noticed that when I went to like legit truck stops, they had good water as opposed to the little kind of down country gas stations. But try to find good, clean water so that you can keep your windshield as clean as possible. The other thing to watch out for is bugs. When I was coming through Indio, California on my way back to Los Angeles, I don't know what it was, but I think I ran into like maybe a swarm of grasshoppers because they hit the windshield almost like a machine gun. It was, over the course of 30 seconds, I was just barraged, and then I never hit another bug again. But I was under a tight deadline to get into Los Angeles, and so I didn't have time to pull over, find a gas station, scrub all those bugs off the windshield. But at the same time, it kind of ruined that driving into Los Angeles at night shot that I was kind of excited to see because I had bugs, giant bugs all over the place. It's kind of nasty. But watch out for that, and just remember, any of those things are going to mess up your shot as well. Finally, when you're putting this whole thing together, you're going to import all of this footage off of your camera, you're going to bring it in, and you're going to edit it together. Now, for me personally, I wanted to keep the whole flow of travel going through the whole time. So I went through and edited out all the boring stuff. No one wants to see me sitting at Taco Bell taking a phone call for 10 minutes. Even though the camera was rolling, I said, all right, let's cut that footage out. So you cut out all the gas station stops, or stop the camera, and really just focus on the road. Because to me, that's the cool part, is just seeing us flying through the country at just breakneck speed. And again, you can have all of those memories encased within that one time-lapse file. So that brings up our question of the week. How do you, all of you time-lapsers, use time-lapse photography or time-lapse video work to help augment your vacation memories or your travel memories or any of the stuff you're doing this summer? How do you best use time-lapse to help augment that footage? I'd love to hear your suggestions. So go down into the YouTube. If you're watching the video version, leave us a comment on YouTube and let us know. If you're listening to the audio version, remember you can always email the show@thetimelapseshow.com, and let us know your comments, and we can feature those in future episodes. So with that, it's now time for my time-lapse clip of the week. As we've been talking about documenting journeys as opposed to just different scenery, I did find one this week that I thought was particularly interesting. Now, this is not driving across the country. This is a YouTuber named Jeff HK. And what he did is he mounted a GoPro at the top of a ship as he was traveling around the world, going through across the ocean. So you can see the big ship out in front of him, but all this beautiful scenery happening all around him, whether it's storms, whether it's at night. Absolutely beautiful. The whole thing is about 10 minutes long, so this is quite a journey that he had, but the scenery in here is just amazing, and this is a really unique, awesome way to use time-lapse, again, to document journeys that we're taking instead of just scenery. So check this out. Go watch the whole video, and let us know what you think. So that's it for this week's episode of the Timelapse Show. Remember, if you want to connect with the show when we're not on the air, you can do so through all of our different social media platforms and applications. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Obviously, if you're watching the video version, you know we're on YouTube. You can also visit the website at www.thetimelapseshow.com to check out all of our past episodes. Remember, you can send your questions or comments or answers to the question of the week to show@thetimelapseshow.com. You can also leave us a voicemail. Our voicemail number is 541-321-0472. If you're listening again to the audio version, remember you can go onto iTunes, leave us a review. That always helps other people to find the show so that we can really increase this awesome hobby that we have called time-lapsing. And I think that's about it. Thanks for watching and listening this week. So now, grab a camera and go speed up the world.